Good evening, everyone. I'm Francesca Sissa, the Vice President of the Italian Society, and today we'll be interviewing Beatrice Venezzi, Principal Guest Conductor of the Orchestra della Toscana, Chief Conductor of the Orchestra Milano Classica, one of the youngest orchestra conductors in Europe, and she was listed in 2018 in Forbes 100 under 30. Welcome, Beatrice Venezzi.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for this invitation.
We're so pleased to have you here. Really.
I'm very proud to be here. Thank you.
Well, first of all, how are you and where are you right now?
So, I'm Italian, as you were saying. I live in Switzerland. I live in Lugano, in Italian Swiss. And so I'm here, and I just came back from, I must say that, a wonderful trip to Namibia in Africa. But this month has been quite, I would call it a month off because of the COVID restrictions. And our environment, the world of classical music was deeply touched by this emergency.
Yeah, I completely understand. So if you want, we can start the interview.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so I would start with the first question, which is right into gender equality, I would say, in your industry. And so I've recently read in an article that only 6% of orchestras are led by women. And I was wondering, why do you think this happens? And in your view, what can be done to increase this percentage and therefore promote equality in this industry? What's your point of view on this? Because, you're part of the 6%.
So this is particularly true in, I would say, Latin countries. So in Southern Europe, for instance, UK, I'm sure, has a different percentage for sure. Same thing for Norway, let's say, and all the Scandinavian countries. US, I'm quite sure about that as well. So I think that basically the problem is related to the idea of leadership. So what's leadership? In Italian, that we have quite a lot of very colorful expressions in our language to describe the fact that, leadership is related to something that is biological, related to man. Okay, so we still have an idea of leadership that is based on the muscle supremacy, I would say, and so and therefore it's related to man, basically, and therefore the figure of a leader in every environment, but specifically in that of classical music, which is, it's kind of a cage somehow. It's very difficult to destroy this cage, to go beyond the cliches in our environment, specific environment. So, but I would say that this is related to nearly every type of work. So the idea we have of a leader is, first of all, a male, somebody who has to demonstrate his power and his being superior to the others. To me, leadership is something completely different. But so this is a cultural matter, and this is the base of this very problem. I think there are many actions that have been done in the last few years to try to solve this problem. Specific fellowships or competitions for women, for instance, for women conductors, or every kind of measure that is related to what we called pink quotes. I don't know the word for that in English, I must say. Quote rosa, what we call quote rosa in Italy. I don't know if you have a suggestion for that in English. I don't know whether you have this.
Honestly, I have no idea.
Yeah.
we're just gonna say quote rosa.
Quote rosa, yes. So
Yeah.
let's say there's a percentage that is for women inside the councils of societies and stuff like that. So this kind of measures, I think, they might have a reason in that time, back in the 80s or the 90s, but nowadays, I feel that they're kind of risky because they're kind of describing women as a minority, as a weak part of society, and we are not. We actually are not. So this is basically a cultural problem, and culture is the means through which we have to solve this problem.
And in terms of practical steps, that especially women have to do, but also men actually, to change this, in our daily lives, what would you say? What advice would you give to, a student that completely agrees with you and wants you to make a difference somehow?
So on one side, I do agree with you. So feminism is basically, it's both a male and a female issue. It's not just a female issue. We can't keep on talking about this just in between us. It doesn't work like this.
Yeah.
It can't work. So this is first thing. Then I would say that the example that a single person can give to the others is the most powerful act, actually. So being an example, and I know it's not easy at all, but I think we women, we should, first of all, at least those who make it to arrive at certain position, we have to bear in mind that we cannot change this, and we don't want to change this. We want to show that we are women and we made it without any without any help, basically, or even demonstrating 300% in comparison with a colleague, with a male colleague, because this is what happens actually. We need to support each other, I think. And well, this is quite difficult, right?
Yeah.
Or at least this is the unfortunately the experience I had. So that's why I'm personally trying to help every girl who is asking me, for instance, any advice on how to become a conductor or even how to be a musician in general. I try to help, and this is the first step, I think.
That's great. And you also wrote a book, Sorelle di Mozart, where you basically provide examples of women in the music industry that weren't really talked about that much. So that's also very nice. I think many people are going to understand, a little bit more that women are, important as well, not only men, especially in the... Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
No, saying just especially in industries where women are not in leadership positions. In your case, for example. So yeah, you can continue, please.
Yeah. So I think one of the main problems we have about female figures, I would say, and female role models. The main problem is the narration that has been done about those characters. For instance, I think about the Mozart's sister, for instance, or Schumann's wife. All these people, they were remembered by the history of music as sister of, wife of, and so on and so forth. But And they were actually very important in the history of music and in the development of the history of music in that very period. Plus, they were very important in the development of the musical style of their brother, husband, and so on and so forth. So we have to remember them in the right way, to put them in the right point of the history of music, you know. And that's the goal of this book, actually.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And I would now move on to a different topic, and that I think you really care about. And so, unfortunately, classical music is not one of the most popular genres of music listened to by teenagers, young adults. Um, so I was wondering what can be done to change this? How can we motivate young people to listen to this type of music and try out and appreciate it? And what similarities do you think there are between the music they typically listen to and classical music?
I think one key might be the stories of operas, for instance. So if we take an opera, let's say from the Italian repertoire, um, an opera by Puccini, for instance, and you compare it with any, I don't know, movie or a TV show or stories of contemporary lives, then you will find that there are so many similarities. We just don't know it. We don't know. In the end, the point is that we don't know this kind of repertoire because we follow the cliche that says that classical music is something difficult, something just for those in the know, something maybe for the old, a bit boring. And that's because we don't know it, basically. We never had the chance to meet, literally, this music. And of course, now we are in this COVID situation, but my suggestion is to go to a theater, to have the full experience of a full orchestra playing, because actually we're used to digital sound. We are used to listen to music through some digital platforms with our, or with our phones or laptops or whatever else. So we're not used to the sound, to the live sound and a live sound of instruments. And this is a very peculiar sensation, since it's something that literally hits your skin. So you can really feel the waves, the sound waves on your skin, and this is something that you cannot forget, and that I'm sure it will touch anybody. So this is one thing. The second, as I was saying, are the plots. So stories of operas, getting to know them, getting to know these characters of the operas is something that can demonstrate the actuality, the modernity, and how contemporary these operas can be. And in this case, I suggest you to start with an opera by Puccini, for instance, because he was definitely the most modern one. And also the way he is, also the narration, the speed of narration is very similar to those of movies. So I think starting with, let's say, La Bohème or similar operas is the right choice, really, also to involve a youngest audience. And well, for instance, La Bohème, if you take the plot, it's the very same plot, the very same narrative scheme of How I Met Your Mother, or
Really?
Friends, or of similar TV shows. So if you find the similarities, I think you will start to think about those operas as something very modern and very close to you?
Okay, that's I've never heard that before, so it's very interesting to look at it as a TV series and a modern TV series. And also, yeah, I definitely agree. It's going to theater is kind of different than actually listening to music on your phone or um, through a stereo. It's more like the experience itself than the music. It's everything together. Great. Okay. And now I'm gonna move on to question number 3, and I'm gonna ask you some not personal, but some questions related to your travels and what you do quite often. So
Okay.
I know you've traveled around the world so many times, both for pleasure with your family, friends, and also for work. And I was wondering, how have these experiences shaped the way you look at the world? And also, do you think they have influenced your profession as well? And if yes, how?
Yes, so both, yes, for both things. Yes, well, I'm an avid traveler. I love to travel around the world. This is what I'm, the thing that I'm missing maybe the most in this period. But anyway, yes, of course, traveling, being able to make a comparison with other cultures and traditions and ways to make music, or the way a society develops or develops certain issues, certain themes. Then all this is a matter of growth, is something that allowed me to grow and to to feed, I would say, my critical thought, my critical way of thinking. It's very important to have the, the widest possible range of of things you can compare with, both on the artistic and the professional. This was very important to me. For instance, the way I'm conducting is, of course, it's not different, but the way I'm relating to every orchestra is different, and it depends a lot on the cultural matter. There is a total different way of approaching the theme of leadership, the theme of female leadership, the theme of, I don't know, the way to interact with the orchestra, or even the sense of humor. All this changes a lot the way I'm relating to the orchestra. For instance, I behave in a certain way in Argentina, and in a total different way in Japan, of course, because how should I put that? The feeling you have while you are conducting there is completely different, and there is also a matter of language, and so the true possibility of communicating. Every single issue is, of course, something that determines the way I'm conducting and relating to the orchestras in different countries.
And in terms of your personal life, what is the country that gave you the most? And from the professional side, what is the country you feel more comfortable performing in?
I'm curious to make my debut in UK next summer. So maybe in a few months I will say UK. I don't know. That might be.
Hopefully, I mean, who knows?
Hopefully, I hope it too. Yes. So I had a wonderful experience last winter. I made my debut in France, and so that was a wonderful experience, really. And so that is a country that has given me a lot. Italy, of course, I've done a lot I've conducted a lot. I started there. It sometimes might be a difficult place, a difficult country, also because it's very, well, the orchestras are, they're very linked to unions, and sometimes this makes it difficult to make music properly. Sometimes we lose the focus on music, and we just focus on bureaucracy and stuff like that. So this might be heavy sometimes.
Very true.
Yeah. I had a wonderful experience in Japan. Of course, it's more difficult to enhance the emotional side with them because it's not in their culture. But the quality, the technical quality was outstanding, really, since the very first rehearsal. So great professionals. And then Argentina and South America in general, well, they are so, the audience especially is so warm. So it's quite an experience to conduct there.
Okay, wow. It's clear you've traveled really around the world so much. And that's pretty amazing as well. As I believe it helps you to grow as a person as well.
Exactly.
And that influences your profession as well. And okay, so now let's go back to the leadership side of your work, and we've already talked a little bit about it. And I was wondering, you said that you have a different type of leadership compared to men and also other women. And why do you say that? How would you describe it? And how do you earn the trust of all the members of the orchestra? Especially being a very young conductor. And what is your technique to actually achieve this?
Well, to me, the very first question is, what is leadership nowadays in 2021? What does it mean? So to me, it's something very different from what it was in, I don't know, 1950s or 1960s, or even a few years ago.
Yeah.
If you watch some videos of old conductors, such as, I don't know, Toscanini, for instance, so, well, he was kind of a dictator more than a conductor, but it was perfectly, it was that very time, that very period of history. This had a true meaning. I think nowadays leadership is something very different, and we have to keep up with the times. So to me, nowadays leadership is to being able to enhance the work of every single member of the orchestra, and to enhance and to trust also to the possibilities and the qualities of every single member of the orchestra. So it means that my leadership, my vision of leadership is much more democratic, much more,
collaborative.
Yeah, collaborative as well. That means also another thing, that the responsibility of the result of a performance is not all on the shoulders of a conductor, but it's part. There are some parts of responsibilities for the single member of the orchestra. So sometimes this is not well appreciated, because you have to take your own responsibility in this case. To me, this is a much more developed, evolved, and updated form of democracy. And actually, I think orchestra is you know, is society. It's the mirror of society somehow. So to me, this way of leadership is based on an idea, a specific idea of democracy, and therefore that's something I wish could involve the whole society. But as I said, it's not. I mean, not everybody wants to have his own responsibility in the process. So sometimes it's not easy.
Great. Now, I was running. So I watched a TED talk you gave in 2017, I guess,
Yeah.
and you basically explained what a conductor does, because it might be a bit confusing for the people that are not in that environment. You said it might seem like a fairy, like in Cinderella. But could you give us a short overview of what a conductor is, what you do, and how can a person start learning? You know, a person from scratch start learning how to become a conductor.
Well, so first of all, I know it's sometimes difficult to understand what a conductor is doing, because we might think about a dance, or is he dancing, or is he, I don't know, just pointing at people, or is he beating the tempo and the rhythm, or whatever else? So yes, of course, we're beating the tempo, we're beating the rhythm. But if it was just for that, you know, a metronome would be more than enough. So it's not just that. The notes are all written on the scores. Rhythm is written on the scores. On the score that every musician of the orchestra, so we're talking about 30, 50, 100 people, every one of them is on a score in front of him or her. So they know what to do, but they might have their own interpretation, their own idea of that very score. So we might have 30, 50, or 100 versions, interpretations of that very score. And that is what a conductor does. A conductor, let's say, that conveys all the intentions and all the interpretations into one. And his true goal is that of making everyone believe and follow his own idea. So it's very interesting to me, this kind of work, because it's not just playing, it's not just an artistic matter, but it's human resources work, and something related to that. So and your power to convince others to follow you. So this is leadership, basically. And well, so yes, we do, as I said, then we do a lot of things like beating the tempo, saying how to play this very part of the score, with which technique, or if it is piano or forte, so loud or less loud, or soft, and so on and so forth. And of course we take care about the balance in the orchestra as well, because you have, as I said, you have a score and everything is written in it, but then it depends on your interpretation, how much you want the, I don't know, the strings to be heard, or the solo of the clarinet to be heard, and so on. So it's a great work of imagination, first of all, because when I study a score, I play it on the piano, but I do not have the orchestra at my disposition. So I have to wait for the first day of rehearsal to start working with them and to see how it sounds really. And before that, I already have to have my own idea of what I want to listen to. So that's what I'm saying, that it's a great work of imagination. And if anybody wants to become a conductor, then I suggest you start with an instrument.
You started with the piano.
Yes, I started with piano, and that was great to me because I had the chance to work as a répétiteur, so as a pianist who accompanies singers, basically. And so I worked in many opera productions, and that was a great and excellent training to me. For me, that I want to be a conductor, especially in the field of opera, because I understood how to accompany, how to sustain, how to help a singer, while playing at the beginning, and then while conducting the orchestra. So the other instrument usually conductors come from is violin or other instruments of the orchestra, because that's a great training too, because you understand how to be on the other side. So what does it mean to be conducted, and then you understand how to conduct. Then I studied composition, and this is another great training to me, because on one side you understand how to interpret a score, while with composition you understand how to put everything together, every single piece of the puzzle together, and to assemble them together and to form a piece of art. So it's the other way around, the other process, composing and decomposing a score.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, it looks very difficult. How long does it take? How long does it take for you to actually to create, all the material you need for the performance? Like, how long is the process? Because it looks very long to me. Yes. So, how long does it take for you?
So there is the first period of study when you're at home, and you study your own score, and you play it at the piano. If it's an opera, you have to learn the text as well, because then you will need maybe also to sing sometimes in some rehearsals, to sing the part of singers which are not there for the rehearsal, for instance. Or when you do the first reading with an orchestra, you read just a part of the orchestra, but the orchestra needs to listen to what the singers are singing. Therefore, and there are no singers in that very moment. Therefore, the conductor is the one who has to sing for them. So
wow.
You learn every single part of everybody, every instrument, every singer, the choir, and so on and so forth. And then you start rehearsing. So for an opera, for instance, there is a first period of musical rehearsals. So it's the conductor with a pianist and singers, no orchestra. Then they start to rehearse on stage. So it's conductor with a pianist, the singers, and the stage director. And the rehearsal, the movements they have to do on stage, but the conductor has always to be there to be sure they do not forget what the conductor is asking on the musical side. So, and then there is the third step, as I was saying, is the orchestral reading. Usually we have a couple of orchestral reading of an opera. And then there is what is called Sitzprobe, or Prova Italiana, all'italiana, which is the first rehearsal with the orchestra, singers, but no movements on stage. And then every piece is put together, and we do the ensemble. So it's everything together with movements. Then we have the general rehearsal, and then we go on stage. So it's quite long. It depends a lot on the single countries. In UK, it's 6 weeks generally. 6 weeks of rehearsal.
Okay, I mean, it's not too bad.
No, not too bad. In Italy, it's 3 when it's okay. But yeah, so that's it. It's quite long. It's definitely longer than a symphonic concert, because for a symphonic concert we have three. When you're lucky, you have three, maximum 4 days of rehearsals, not more. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And this happens with orchestra you don't know also. So you don't know them, and you have to create this empathy, and well, that might be tricky sometimes, because you don't know what to expect. They don't know how they will react to your way of conducting, to your person, because they say that a conductor is judged by the orchestra in the very same moment that he opens the door of the rehearsal room and walks to the podium. So even before grabbing the baton, and this says a lot about the fact that the main issue is respect, how to be respected by an orchestra. And it's quite weird, the sensation you have when you first go on the podium, because you're alone there. You're alone on the podium. Yeah, you're the leader, but you have to gain this position. And all the others, you have in front of you 30, 50, as I was saying, 70, 100 even people in front of you, and they behave like one body.
Yeah.
So the sensation is peculiar.
Okay, so I guess this is linked to the next question, which is related to the challenges of a conductor, and what are the sacrifices a young person needs to make in order to become a successful conductor like yourself. So yeah, what are the most difficult challenges you had to overcome in order to be where you are right now?
So first of all was the studies when I was studying, because as I said, started out in piano, and I was attending the conservatory together with the, how should I say that, normal school. So elementary. In Italy, we have primary school, and then all the other degrees. So yeah, that was the very first step I had to overcome, because of course I had to study for the and on the other side I had to study for the conservatory. So yeah, many sacrifices at that time, because I was a teenage, and of course I wanted to go out to have a normal life, but in the end it was not normal life, since I had to study so many hours, and I couldn't care if it was Saturday or Sunday, if I had to make something done. So that was the very first one. But then, if I have to think about it nowadays, if I have to think about now, I don't feel like I have done so many sacrifices, because what I had in return was so much that it repaid everything that I've done at that time. So then there is the private life. I'm very lucky at the moment, because I found a wonderful person I have a wonderful person next to me who understands my work, and what my work requires. So to be far from home for long periods and stuff like that, but he's willing to come with me. He's willing to travel, so it's fine. But that might be a great sacrifice as well. And I know a lot of people, a lot of colleagues who are not lucky as I am. So and then there is being a woman in a male, and very conservative environment, women are, as we were saying before, and well, the stories of many of those women we were talking about before are the proof of that. Women always have to demonstrate at least 300% in comparison with men, and there are always, and there's always somebody waiting for them to fall. And when you're on the podium, you feel that. You feel that in your body, literally, and you can't make any mistake, basically. So you always have to be prepared. And there is a great pressure in that, I must say, because there is always somebody waiting for you to fall, and all the cliches, about being a woman, being blonde, being not trying to hide my being a woman with long dresses and stuff like that. All this is very gives me a lot of enemies, and I do feel that, I understand that, and so this is the most the greatest. It's not even a problem, it's just that it's something very I'm sorry, I forgot the term for that. Anyway, it's something that is there every day. You have to confront it with that every day. So after a while, it becomes very stressful. But well,
it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, actually, I'm going to ask you this. Where do you see the classical music industry in 30 years? Do you think it's going to be more open, to having women being conductors, or not? And how long do you think it's going to be before that happens? And also, in general, where do you think the classical music industry and the conductor industry will be in 30 years?
So in terms of gender, in terms of gender equality, I think we will definitely overcome this situation and have more more equality, basically. So I think this is quite not even an issue. What I'm worried about is the future of this industry, especially nowadays. I realized that during this COVID situation, this pandemic situation, so we had a lot of streaming concerts. And of course, on one side, this was something helpful, both for the audience and for the musicians as well, because they needed to work, we needed to work, and the orchestras, even those orchestras which are paid regularly, they of course needed to practice together. So, but on the other side, we were not able at all to create new languages. Those new languages we were looking for, and we needed, actually, because I keep on believing that we cannot simply adapt what was born for a live performance and for the confrontation with an audience to the digital mean. So we should try to find, since I believe that of course, we will overcome this pandemic situation and we will go back to theaters and so on. But on the other side, something has to change also in the way we relate to the way we communicate this content and the way we promote this content, and also the way we broadcast literally this content. So we should find new languages, which is not simply an adaptation of what is a live performance to the digital means. So this is the first thing. And also I'm worried because on one side there is a kind of the willing of conserving this content of classical music like in a museum, but it's not. It's not a museum. It can't be a museum. Music is something live, something alive, something that keeps on being live thanks to the interpretations of new and young musicians. So it has to flow through an actual sensibility. This is, to sum up, communication, the way we communicate about classical music and the content of classical music, the way we propose the content of classical music and trying to find new languages through which propose this content. Those are the main issues, I think, for the next few years. And the third one is, of course, to find a new audience. We can't.
What can institutions and the government do for this? To make new generations appreciate a little bit more. Not only people, because we've already mentioned that before, but what can actually the government and institutions such as schools do to promote it even more?
So I'm not aware about what happens in the UK. I must say that, but I'm aware what happens in Italy. And first of all, we have to work on classical music divulgarization, so that it is not anymore something just elitist, just for those in the know. So what we call the public service. And with this, TV, radio, and so on and so forth. They have to work about this. Because when we talk about it, we cannot just look at the percentage of the share we find, we see in TV. And the audience that is following this very content. So we have to be aware that culture needs something else. So this is the first thing. Second is education. We definitely have to look for something different, for a different way of teaching classical music in our schools. So these are the two main issues, I think.
And in terms of teaching classical music, do you think that we should have music classes not only in middle school, but also, for example, in high school?
Primary, middle, and high school, I think, because it's something that has so many different layers of interpretation, and such as history of art, or whatever other subjects. So you will approach to this matter in different terms, in different ways, on the basis of what age you are and how old are you. But I think it has to be done in every class.
I'm going to ask you this last question, then move on to the Q&A. So recently at the Sanremo Music Festival, and actually in many other occasions, you stated that you prefer to be referred to as direttore, so the male version of the word conductor in Italian, rather than direttrice. And this statement created a very large debate, not only in Italy, but all over the world, because there are very different opinions on the matter. And why is it important for you to be regarded as direttore and not direttrice? And do you think that in this case, a more neutral form is needed in the Italian language?
Well, you know, in Latin, there was the neutral form, and then it passed to what now we call maschile inclusivo, inclusive masculine form. So this is our neutral, basically, and that's what direttore is. So it's kind of a neutral. We don't have neutral in Italian, unfortunately, because to me, if we want to conquer equality in between men and women, we definitely have to be called in the same way for the same job. We have to be paid in the same way for the same job. And we have to have the same opportunities for the same job. And if we continue to make differences in between masculine and feminine forms, then we're going the other direction around completely. That's at least my opinion, and also because I do know all the theories about, you know, the linguistic theories about how language forms a culture and a way of thinking. But to me, it's kind of the contrary. So first of all, facts, and then we will definitely, well, and then the development and those changes in our language will come by themselves. But first of all, I want to focus on facts and what can really do the difference. And as I was saying, I think that this is really a mistake on the ideological side. I mean, I don't want to talk about a political ideology, because that was the main point in the end of the whole discussion in Italy. And to me, this is we lost an opportunity to discuss it on you know, in the proper way. And also I realized that many critics came from other women that tried to make me appear as somebody who was not, you know, there is a word in French that I love very much, that is cultivé. So and I like it very much, because it means to be to know and to have studied, and, you know, to have formed yourself on the cultural side. So they told me I was not, I didn't know enough, I was not cultivé enough, and to fully understand that, and many other things that were personal attacks, you know. And I was thinking, oh my God, we lost a great opportunity, because those women are actually replicating those schemes that some men use to attack women, saying that they are not enough. So this is the thing that I learned from this situation, and from this episode, I would say.
Well, it definitely opened a debate on it, and I guess some people agree with you. I believe it needed more explanation, maybe, for some people, you know. That's what it needed, and yes. So direttore as a role, not Beatrice Venezzi, right? Okay, so I'm gonna move on to the Q&A. We got Ricardo that asks, how international do you think the great Italian classic composers were?
They actually were very international. So let me say, if you think about, well, we mentioned Puccini before. He was very well known all over the world. There are many pictures of him when he went, for instance, to Uruguay and Argentina, and there were full crowd waiting for his ship to arrive to the port in Buenos Aires, and so he was a star. Many other Italian composers were very, very famous, and even nowadays, they're still, the main, one of the main references for the operatic repertoire are Italian composers. Verdi, Puccini, Rossini, who actually became very, very famous and decided to stop when he was quite young. He decided to stop composing, and or Cherubini, who became famous in France. So he made his fortune in France. So yeah, they were quite international.
And we got one more question from Ricardo, which is, how do you think that music could reach such a global audience at times where being exposed to the world was not a thing?
That's quite a question. Well, the musical industry was very different. First of all, the main interest was in Europe. So they used to do tours, actually, like we nowadays do tours for pop and rock music. They used to do tours into, for instance, at least for the soloists and the virtuosos, for instance, while the composers, they made their fortunes through editors, basically. So Puccini was published by Ricordi, for instance, and so Ricordi was trying to sell his operas in other countries. And at the moment, the work of critics were very important. Because there was huge exchange of information, and they used to go to listen to every premiere of every opera and to write about it. That's something that doesn't really happen anymore. And you also have to think that it was very different at that very moment, because there was not classical music and pop music or rock music and so on. The audience was waiting for the premiere of a new opera of, I don't know, Donizetti or Mascagni, like concert of Coldplay, So that's the way it was at that time, because there were not great opportunities to listen to music. The only opportunity to listen to music basically was to go to the theaters and to listen to it. That's it.
Great. And okay, so now let's end this conversation we just had, which was amazing in my opinion. So what are the projects you are currently working on and that are about to take place? If you can talk about it, of course.
Yes, of course. So I'm going to record my next CD in a couple of weeks. It's gonna be it's not a monography like it was for the first one, for the CD, which was dedicated to Puccini, by the way. And so this is gonna be how should I put that? There is a fil rouge, I would say, and we are gonna go through different pages, different symphonic pages from operas, from the operatic repertoire.
It's like a story.
Yeah, like a story, because it's
Okay.
dedicated to women, and that's the main theme. I can't say more for now, but well, I will record it with an Italian orchestra, which is the Haydn Orchestra in Bolzano, and then I will have a couple of concerts with my orchestra in Florence, Orchestra Toscana, and then I will fly to London to make my debut at Opera Holland Park.
Do we have any dates?
Yes, from July
UK?
16th. From July 16th till July 31st, 8 performances. So I will hear you.
We're gonna write everything down in the description.
Yes,
and
please.
everywhere. Link your books, because you didn't only write one, but you wrote many, and your albums as well. So thank you so much for being here today. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here, and I wish you all the best, really, your career in the UK as well. And yeah, Ricardo says we can invite you for a coffee in July to thank you about the interview.
I will come, definitely.
That's a plan.
Sounds like a plan, yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me. And well, I hope to meet you soon in person.
Hopefully. And go see her in July in London.
Please come.
Yes. Goodbye, guys. And yeah, have a nice evening.
Goodbye.